Hello everyone, welcome to Inconvenient Truths. I'm your host, Jennifer Zeng. This week, the CCP announced a healthy-looking GDP growth rate for last year, but immediately followed it with two interest cuts that are usually adopted to stimulate the economy when it is not doing well. Why? And why did the deputy governor of China's central bank say that the saddest thing is the death of people's hearts? I will talk about these issues first, and then I will show you several videos from today showing that Chinese people have finally started to fight back against the lockdown. So please make sure you stick around till the end. On January 17th, the CCP's National Bureau of Statistics announced that China's GDP in 2021 was about 114 trillion yuan, that's about 18 trillion US dollars, and the GDP growth was 8.1%. So 8.1%, that's quite a lot, right? If any country had this kind of growth, people would think that the country is doing very well, right? And then on the same day, China's central bank announced that it would lower the rate on 7-day reverse purchase agreements by 10 basic points to 2.1% and cut the interest rate on the one-year medium-term lending facility to 2.85% from 2.95%. On the following day, Liu Guoqiang, a deputy governor of the People's Bank of China, said that China will open its monetary policy toolbox wider to maintain the stability of total credit. He said, in addition to keeping total credit stable and avoiding the collapse of credit, the central bank's policy efforts will also include targeted and forward-looking moves to get ahead of the curve and respond promptly to general concerns of the market. He also said the financial sector should not only welcome customers to the door, but also take the initiative to go out to find customers and good projects, optimize the economic structure to respond to market needs in a timely fashion, etc. Notably, he used a very famous Chinese saying, 哀莫大于心死, which means the saddest thing is the death of people's hearts. We can also understand this as the worst thing is that people's hearts are dead. People no longer have the passion or enthusiasm to do anything. So Liu Guoqiang's main point is the banks should go out to find customers, lend money to them quickly to keep the market alive and running. Otherwise, if people's hearts or hopes for the future are dead, the market will collapse. So that's his main concern. And then today, China's central bank cut its benchmark lending rates again, reducing the one-year loan prime rate by 10 basis points from 3.8% to 3.7%. In December last year, it already cut the one-year loan prime rate. That was the first time since April 2020. For anyone who has a little bit of common sense on economics, central banks don't cut interest rate if the economy is doing well. You only cut interest to stimulate the economy when it is not doing well. That's why China expert Golden Chang said, breaking news, in a sign that China's economy has stalled out, the central bank for the second executive month cut the benchmark lending rate. Why would the CCP be in such a hurry to cut the interest rates? I think the only possibility is that China's economy is worse than what the outside world knows. So the central bank had to hurry up. Even these cuts would contradict the CCP's great GDP growth numbers. And how bad is the situation exactly? Let's check from several aspects. First of all, the GDP growth. Let's suppose that the CCP's numbers are true and these are the numbers published by the CCP itself. So you can see the overall number is 8.1% and is supposed to be good. But if you check the growth rate in different quarters, you can see that from the first quarter to the fourth one, the GDP growth rates are 18.3%, 7.9%, 4.9%, and 4.0%. So the trend is terrifying, right? Going down very fast. We've said before that for the CCP's GDP growth, anything under 6% is terrible and equates to no growth or negative growth. Second, the real estate market. We've talked about this a lot in the past, so today let's only do a simple update. A while ago, Han Fuling, a professor at China's Central University of Finance, posted on his Weibo account that just after the start of 2022, the 4 major banks are already suing 200,000 homeowners for mortgage default. So 200,000 people were sued by their banks because they stopped paying their mortgages. You know, in China, people seldom get a 100% loan from a bank when they buy properties. Usually, they must pay a down payment, 10% or 20% at least. If they stop paying their mortgage and the property is taken back by the bank, they will lose their down payment. So unless it is absolutely impossible for them to pay their mortgage and keep their property, they will definitely keep paying. And these are the numbers of foreclosed properties in China. Data from China's largest Ali foreclosed home platform shows that the number of foreclosed homes listed in China has soared nearly 187 times in 4 years. In 2017, the number was only 9,000. In 2018, it was 20,000. In 2019, 500,000. In 2020, over 1.2 million. And in 2021, it was over 1.68 million. And these are only the numbers on one platform. We don't know how many are on other platforms, but the trend is again terrifying, from 9,000 to 1.68 million. 187 times more in just 4 years. Third, let's check China's foreign exchange reserve. A while ago, some people talked about how the CCP didn't fulfill its promise to buy US products as outlined in the US-China trade deal. This may probably be because the CCP really doesn't have enough foreign exchange reserves. So in theory, the CCP says it still has more than 3 trillion in foreign exchange reserves, and that's the highest in the world. However, the CCP also owns 2.7 trillion in foreign debt. In the meantime, it has 3.5 4 trillion in direct foreign investment. And what does that mean? It means if all the foreign investors in China say we want to divest and to take back our investment in China, this alone will use up all the CCP's foreign exchange reserves, and it won't be able to pay back its foreign debts. For the 2.7 trillion in foreign debt, 17% of it was borrowed by the Chinese government and China's central bank, and the rest was borrowed by China's commercial banks and non-financial enterprises. And out of the 1.2 trillion borrowed by commercial banks, 70% of it was short-term foreign debt with an average maturity of 1 year. This means every 1 or 2 years, China's banks need to pay back 1.5 trillion. In the past few years, Chinese banks and enterprises have been relying on new debts to repay old ones. But what will happen if they cannot borrow new debts? Recently, China's real estate giant Evergrande and other real estate companies already defaulted on their debts. This means they will have problems borrowing any more money. So for direct investors investing in China, as well as Wall Street, which has lent 2.7 trillion to the Chinese government banks and enterprises, there is a huge risk that they cannot get their money back, as what the CCP owes is almost twice as much as what it has. Another very serious issue is local government debts, but we've already talked about it before, so I won't discuss it anymore today. If you haven't watched that video, please look for it. It was streamed on December 28th. So overall, this year's prospect is very gloomy. The CCP talked about the 3 most worrying things during its conference on the economy in December, which are shrinking spending, shockwaves in the supply chain, and lowered expectations. I think all of the 3, the last one, the lowered expectations, is the most worrying one. For the general public, they dare not spend, and for the businesses, they dare not invest or expand their business skills. That's why the Deputy Governor Liu Guoqiang talked about how the saddest thing is the death of people's hearts, and that's why he urged commercial banks to go out to seek customers and encourage them to borrow and spend. Remember, we talked about Xi Jinping's drunken boxing more than once last year. It was exactly Xi Jinping's drunken boxing and his continuous crackdown on different businesses and industries this past year that has killed people's hearts. Poor people lost their jobs, and rich people such as Alibaba's Jack Ma were forced to either give part of their business to the CCP or make huge donations in response to Xi Jinping's call for common prosperity. Who would have the heart to try to start or expand their businesses? Also, with the senseless zero-COVID policy, how much more has Chinese society suffered and will suffer? How great is the cost? Nobody knows. Since the CCP blamed Canada for mailing the virus to China, the Chinese Postal Office really issued a notice requiring offices to redouble their efforts to disinfect foreign packages, and the foreign packages must be opened for disinfecting and be held for 24 hours before they can be delivered. How much more is this going to cost China? Lastly, let's watch a few videos from China showing some interesting developments in the CCP's pandemic control.
咸阳加油！前线加油！前线加油！闪电加油！闪电加油！加油！哪门呢？哪门呢？
Well, what do you think? The so-called pandemic control in China has become a political movement, a cosmic play, a science fiction movie, or a joke. But this joke is making China and Chinese people suffer so much. Now, the next one, which shows people in Shenzhen starting to fight back against the lockdown.
走了，打人了。
Well, the next one is from Yanta district in Xi'an. People in this community have been locked down for 35 days. They can only buy groceries from the property management company at very high prices. So they started protesting. Police beat them up, arrested 2 of them, and a large crowd surrounded the police station shouting, "Release them." Well, It's heartening to see that Chinese people have started to stand up against the CCP's inhumane policies, right? In this sense, maybe their hearts have not really died. Well, that's all for today. I received a lot of encouragement after I talked about how difficult it is for me to do programs in English. I'm really very, very grateful and humbled. Actually, I don't mind if you point out my mistakes or where I should improve. I do want to improve and do better and better. So a big thank you to everyone who has been following my shows and supporting me all the time. Thank you. Have a nice weekend, and I'll see you next week.